Fox News alert for you now. Mark Zuckerberg back on Capitol Hill for a second day of testimony, this time before the House Energy and Commerce Committee, a day after getting grilled into the night by a joint Senate committee. Lawmakers still have a lot of questions. They want to know how his company will protect privacy after a data mining scandal that impacted millions of users. Here's just what happened earlier.
Will Facebook offer to all of its users a blanket opt-in to share their privacy data with any third-party users?
Congresswoman, yes.
It is a minefield in order to do that. Are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, we have made and are continuing to make changes to reduce the amount of data.
Are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure what that means.
You've indicated that, in fact, you're now open to some type of regulation.
The internet is growing in importance around the world in people's lives, and I think that it is inevitable that there will need to be some regulation.
And something that could come up, too, is Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Zuckerberg confirmed yesterday to senators that Facebook is cooperating with the special counsel. He said while he has not been interviewed by Mueller's team, others have been. I want to go back to, so that was Congressman Eshoo that we saw there at the beginning, and she's actually from his district. And she hit on that thing. I watched every minute of this yesterday, and I took notes to the whole thing, much like I think the whole business network was really glued to this. She hit on something that really struck me as incredibly disingenuous, because she was pressing on the idea you contacted Cambridge Analytica and you told them that what they had done was wrong, and they told you they deleted it, and that was good. You know, you took their word for it, and that was that. It is impossible for me to believe that this $64 billion man is naive enough to take a company at their word. Well, you said you deleted it? Okay, good enough for us. To me, that was an untruth. Yeah. And that's as far as being genuine or not.
The ones who, the politicians who I think got him were mostly the Democrats, by the way. Senator Blumenthal focused on the one thing that he said, which is, and this is Zuckerberg said, you meaning the user out there, controls all the information and data you put on Facebook. Well, to that, Mr. Blumenthal came out with the contract between Cambridge Analytica and Facebook, which showed clearly that Cambridge Analytica was given all this data. Now, it was supposed to be temporary, and they were supposed to have destroyed the data at the end of the year. You have no way of checking whether they do or they don't. Once you give somebody other people's data, it's gone.
I thought another big strategic mistake, and Maria, I'll ask you about this one. He said that their user agreement starts with you own your information. You're the one. And immediately lots of people pounced on that and said, I own it, so am I getting a royalty when you sell it to someone else? Right. And he said you can take it down anytime you want. And then he kept getting asked at that point, am I out? Are you still selling it? You're like, can I take my information? We all know you can't take your information back once you put it out there. So this idea that he's trying to say you own it, that too struck me as disingenuous.
Well, it was certainly odd because, yes, you can take down a photo you post, but behind all of that is a bunch of data that's already out there. The focus by the senators, though, on the user agreement was, I found to be a little bizarre. I mean, every time we update iTunes, we say yes. None of us ever read it, I'm sure. In every online platform, we say yes to user agreements that maybe we should read, but none of us do. This is a bigger problem online.
It is.
It also underscored that some of these senators were great. Some of them clearly are not familiar enough with the technology. We needed some better questions. There could have been harder hitting questions asked at him that just didn't get asked.
He did say that he assumes that people don't read the user agreement. And I don't love that idea. But let me also, so then there was also Senator Ted Cruz was talking about, censorship and potential bias on the site. Let's listen to that.
There are a great many Americans who I think are deeply concerned that Facebook and other tech companies are engaged in a pervasive pattern of bias and political censorship.
This is actually a concern that I have and that I try to root out in the company.
I'm talking about censorship.
I'm very committed to making sure that Facebook is a platform for all ideas.
So what's interesting about this is he kept saying that Facebook is a community where everybody has a place to talk about their ideas. But he also said, quote, "We don't allow anything that could make people feel unsafe in our community. And we hear that a lot from the left when it comes to words, safe spaces on college campuses. That is a way to shut up speech that you simply just disagree with or don't like. It's not necessarily referring to terrorism or pornography or things that are actually, quote, hurtful to the community. And his response, I thought, was actually decent when he said, look, I understand that Silicon Valley is a very far left-leaning place. This is something I'm concerned about. But he didn't exactly acknowledge that the censorship is happening, and it absolutely is. I'm on the conservative side of media on the internet with a lot of different groups and journalists, and they have seen their stories downplayed by Facebook. They've seen them being, quote, fact-checked by liberal organizations like factcheck.org and Snopes simply because it has a political leaning, and you don't see that happening with left-wing websites.
So there you go. When does a question go too far? The White House's fierce response when asked about the president's future.
I think that's an absolutely ridiculous question. I gave you 2 questions, April. We're moving on.
More Outnumbered in just a moment. But first, let's touch base with Harris on what's coming up in Outnumbered Overtime in just a few moments. Hey, Harris.
Hey, a busy hour ahead. Just moments ago, Congressman Steve Scalise said he's been interested in moving up. He was asked about the House Speaker Paul Ryan retiring within months. That announcement today. So who would Republicans in the House actually support? Scalise? Somebody else? I'll talk with a member of the House Ethics Committee about how this affects the GOP. Also, we await the president's response. A move to the people suffering from chemical weapons hit in Syria. President Trump just told Russia, don't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people, referring to Syria's leader and Russia. A member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee will join me to talk about that. A lot happening. 1 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. Back to you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Well, they have had their share of testy exchanges, and I'm not talking about Marie and David. But White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was not having it when American Urban Radio's April Ryan asked this. Watch.
With all of this turmoil, particularly this last week, has the president at any time thought about stepping down before or now?
No, and I think that's an absolutely ridiculous question. I gave you 2 questions, April. We're moving on.
Whoa. Anybody want to take a stab at that one?
Reporters love to create a narrative that fits their own perspective. I think that's what we saw happening yesterday. There's been no evidence to support that, but, you know, it's like, is it true that you beat your wife? I mean,
or when did you stop beating your wife?
As someone who briefed at a podium every day for 2 years, reporters ask you all kinds of crazy questions. Like part of it, because they're televised, part of it is
the show.
A show. So believe me, we've all been on the receiving end.
Well, April Ryan is a pie truther. Let's never forget Pie Truther Gate of 2017.
I mean,
she questioned whether
Sarah Sanders
actually made a photo of pecan pie. Are you engaged in the conspiracy, Marie? No, but to a more serious point on the question of the president considering resignation, there's been no crime that has been charged against the president. Why would he step down?
I just don't think he likes being
president.
president.
He would go from being president to resigning simply because there's an investigation, although there's been no crime found, no collusion found, no obstruction of justice at this point. Why you would consider resigning is just, it really is a little bit ridiculous.
I go back to what Maria said. It drives me crazy when the reporters in that room want to make the story and the clips about them. And so it seems like, you know, there's a lot of people that are, you know, guilty of this. I could name names. Right, exactly. And then the clip gets played and played and played.
Well, she has a left-wing audience, too.
So we're playing right into their perspective.
I just don't think he likes being president.
What do you
mean? God, he loves
do you know that?
I just get a sense that I think he likes the pomp and circumstance.
Oh, no.
I don't think he likes the day-to-day.
To your point, he did answer a question once saying, what would you do differently? Well, I wouldn't have run for president.
Yeah, my old life was pretty good.
Oh, I think he loves it.
I think that was in front of a young audience.
It was.
It was some advice.
And he was talking about running, not being.
He was giving advice to them about what to do.
Yeah, and then he said, do not run for president. That's a bad idea. But I think it's unfair to say that he doesn't like the job if he hasn't said that.
I don't think he likes parts of it.
He does have a lot of patriotism.
Everybody doesn't like parts about their job, right?
He feels he can do a lot of good for the country.
Everything.
I love everything about my job.
Well, let's go back to April Ryan real quickly, though. You also have to remember that her audience is a left-leaning audience.
Of course.
And every reporter in that room has an audience that they are reporting to. Right. And their questions are based on a lot of what their audience wants to see and hear. Yeah. So keeping that in perspective is important.
It's fair to say. All right, we'll leave it there. More Outnumbered in just a moment.